Good morning and welcome to Morning Coffee with Brigid on this Monday morning, July the 15th. I'm a minute late this morning because my coffee took a little longer to brew than I expected. And as per usual, I'm drinking pumpkin spice coffee on a day when it's going to be hot and humid. Actually, yeah, this week is going to be, it looks like it's not going to be almost till the end of the week that we really start to see some real autumnal-like relief from this heat. And my sister was saying it might be short-lived, and she might actually might actually be right, although I don't know it's going to be quite as intense. And good morning, Sam. Yeah, just talking about how you were talking, I think the other day about how cold it is over in Britain, and over here it's just gross. It's hot, but it's not like that kind of hot. It's not like when you go down to, like, I don't know, people go to the Caribbean or they go to different places and they go to the beach and they're by the water and the ocean and everything. This is just like you walked into the jungle, basically. It's that kind of hot, and it's just uncomfortable. And it's not that the period of time when I tend to do my best work and everything, but so I don't know. I guess I'm more of a weather person than maybe I shouldn't even say that I like to admit. I mean, I think I do admit that I'm not great with that kind of stuff. But yeah. So anyway, I'm here. I'm still contending with poison ivy. So hopefully. I'm from Jersey and my mom still lives there. She's saying the same thing. She says it's muggy. Yeah, that's the word, muggy. It's just, yeah, because you walk outside and it's like nature hates you. It's like you're bombarded. It's like you take it. It's like whatever shower you took is meaningless, and then all the bugs come at you, all the mosquitoes and things, and whatever else is out there that likes to just likes to attack you, and then if you try to walk through anything, God forbid you walk through the grass barefoot, then you end up with the problems that I have. So it's just, I don't know. I know there are people, I have friends who are like, no, summer's the best. I love it. I'm like, yeah, but I feel like I'm trapped inside the air conditioning all the time. So I don't know. I guess to each their own, but I'm not a fan of Jersey summers at all. I'm having some Britain envy there that you're not here. And what's the expression, from your mouth to God's ear, that eventually that's actually where I want to end up by next year. So let's see how that goes. So let's talk a little bit about what was the topic of this morning, because I was doing usually as usual when I get up I do my Rahani in the morning, and I think, as I mentioned yesterday, today is really it's a rather potent day because there's some rare aspects that we have going on right now, and that mainly is the Mars-Uranus conjunction in Algol in 26 degrees of Taurus. And Algol, of course, it's a word that means something like, roughly translates, it's Algol, to like the devil's head or to the ghoul's head or something like that, but it's actually a reference to Medusa, because it's in the Perseus constellation, and it's the head of Medusa, is this fixed star called Algol. And so today it's interesting. The astrologers are kind of talking about it in a different way, but the message I kind of got this morning while I was doing Rahani is that I think I had gotten a message the other day saying kind of like, don't let people poison you with negative thinking about this particular aspect, because there's the idea that this aspect is somehow a bad one or an explosive one or a violent one. And yeah, it could have the potential to be that. But if we think about anything that's very, very high energy, so if I talk about, Shakti energy, and I tell people, like, be careful doing Kundalini and stuff like that, that doesn't make Kundalini evil and bad. It just means it's very explosive. It's similar kind of a thing with this energy. It's not bad energy, but it is energy that has a chance to kind of, if you want to think about it as a pile of fireworks or a pile of dynamite, you can light that fuse and blow up whatever's blocking your path. Usually, what do they use the dynamite for? It's like if they're building a road through a mountain or something. How do they get the mountain's in your way? How do you get the mountain out of your way? You dynamite it, right? So that's kind of the energy that we're looking at today up through Wednesday. it's going to definitely be this kind of this kind of energy, and it's very, very intense. And if you're someone with a lot of Mars in your chart, like me, well, for me, it's more that Mars is actually in my 12th house, and weirdly, all of the action with this, because Taurus for me is kind of, it's at the 11th house. It's a first degree Taurus, and where the 26 degree mark is in my chart is just at the beginning of the 12th house. So, yeah, that might be why, like, a lot of the Rouhani work I'm doing is just kind of bringing out fountains and fountains of stuff. But I had kind of an insight this morning, because I was doing the Rouhani, and a lot of times, because Rouhani requires a lot of visualization while you do it, especially when you're working with a client. There's not only certain visualizations to get the healing going, but also you want to visualize that person, whatever that person's dealing with. But if they say, well, I'm doing Rouhani because I'm dealing with anxiety, we'll just make that up. And then you want to see this person as, being centered and grounded and having their anxiety, under control. And where anxiety only coming up, when you have that fight or flight response, only have it coming up at the times when you truly need a fight or flight response. We don't want to say, oh, we never want to have anxiety, because sometimes that's a warning signal from the body about something that could be dangerous for us. Okay, and that's really what anxiety should be for. It's just that we have anxiety about all other kinds of stuff too, because it's almost like a little switch that doesn't get turned off. Some people say it's connected to the amygdala in the brain. And yeah, I think that is true to a certain extent, although again, I always think that's more the effect than the cause. Though I suppose your amygdala could get out of whack, and that's why sometimes people with certain medications, it will be able to kind of keep it back in balance that way. But a lot of times it's just a matter of how we approach things. And the thing that kind of came up for me this morning, because like I said, I do the Rouhani, and it has been absolutely transformative in the way that it has, I feel like stuff I've been working on maybe for the last 20 years, it's like I've made more progress in the last month than I have in the last last 6 weeks even, than I have in all that time. So it's interesting how you have that kind of speeding up thing that goes on. But the point being of bringing it up again is that this, a lot of times, my only thing about doing a lot of visualization with it, especially when I'm working on myself, is that sometimes you just need to yield control and say, okay, you know what, maybe I don't know what needs to be worked on. I may know that I have a certain feeling. I may know that, I need this particular thing healed or that, like of course I always say, direct it towards healing the poison ivy on my leg, which is getting better. It's just, it's just still there, which is annoying, and especially when it's hot. But it's just a matter of how we. So there's really this whole thing, and really what kind of came to me during this morning's Rouhani session was just the idea that I just need to let go. It's just a lot of times we want to come in and we think we know what we need for our own healing. So a lot of times when people come in and set a certain intention, I think that's also why when people come in for energy healing, they may come in with one complaint, I guess we'll call it, or one issue or aspect or challenge that they want to work on. But in the process of working on it, it's like other things come up. And when that happens, it's pointing to the fact that we think I think my issue is X. And they're coming in and saying, no, actually your issue is Y. It's not X. The problem is, like, especially when it comes to letting go of the past, it was really weird, because for me, I got a message this morning to look at a certain year in my life. It was just kind of like, look at this particular year, look at what happened in that year, and that's the point that you're working on correcting right now, which I thought was really interesting, the way that came up. Because this morning I came up with some, good morning. There was some personal messages and then there were some collective ones, but it was very much like it was basically just this idea of the things that I think I need to work on. What will frequently come up is something completely unrelated. If I think that my problem is, say, anxiety or rooted in the sacrum or in the instinct response, what ends up happening instead is that I might feel it in the head, or I might feel it, in the heart space, or I might feel it somewhere else. And I'm like, well, I thought that was clear. That wasn't the issue. But sometimes it's not. And it does go back to the whole idea of, the Alan Wattsism of you. Oh, good morning, Melissa. This whole thing of you cannot improve yourself. Okay, it goes back to that again. And in the sense that the reason you want to be better is the reason that you're not. We spend a lot of time in our heads thinking about, kind of cogitating on, what ails us. We're looking for origins. And a lot of times when it comes to thought and dealing with thought, and there are even meditative practices that will say to you, okay, try to get to the origin of whatever your thought process is. And while that's not necessarily a futile exercise, but it may not give us the big picture, okay? Because sometimes what we think the source of something is, it's actually, the root of it may go much deeper, and it may even go into memories or ancestral things or traumas that we don't even really realize. And sometimes one has to get to a point of saying, does the origin really matter at this point? It's sort of like when there's a fight that goes on and, people just keep start arguing about who started it. It's like, at some point, it's like whatever the result is of it, that's really the thing that you're focusing on here. What's more important, I think, than the original event, though that could give you some information, is also just the idea that you are, what's the pattern? What's the thought pattern that triggers the anxiety response? And I find for me, and maybe those of you who are earth signs are going to find this as well, if you're an earth sign, I think it's kind of our thing is we always think that we need to plan. Okay, and I think everybody has a certain element of that. There's definitely, if we think about how we're told to construct our futures from the time that we're young, it's the idea of, once you graduate and once you have a degree, then you need to have a career, or you need to have a job, or you need to have some kind of a thing, and then you need to start financial planning, and then you need to start building for retirement, and then you need to start doing this and that. Like, we have all these plans that we put into place, right? That's just financially. We may have other plans. We may say, I want to buy a house, or I want to get a car, or I want to get this specific kind of car, or we may have these kinds of goals that we have that are around our stability, our security, maybe our freedom, things like that. And so we start the planning stages of what we need. And planning, of course, is certainly part of anything. I mean, in order to use your resources, you have to organize them, right? You have to get them together. But planning, there's maybe the energy of Mars, Uranus, Algol is okay. Mars energy is very, very intense and very impatient. Okay, speaking as someone with a Mars Atmakaraka, and mine's in the 12th house. So it's one of those things, 12th house is what's hidden. So sometimes I may present as very calm to somebody, but I may be on fire in my head because that's kind of how that works. Or it will come out at times that will shock people, may even shock me. But that's that Mars energy, wherever it lays in our chart, okay, wherever it is. Good morning, Sudha. Wherever that Mars energy is in our chart, these are the areas, this is, okay, positively speaking, Mars is where we are motivated. We have energy. It's not us just sitting around going, God, I don't feel like doing anything. It's the energy that says, no, let's get up, let's get busy, let's get going. Mars energy, like I said, where we can have laser-like focus with Mars energy. There's a lot of good things. It's fire energy. It's the element of fire. So you have this element of inspiration, this element of not only being inspired to mentally in the sense of, this is the idea that I have. Good morning. But but it also inspires us to to do something with it. It's not just, you could sit around and brainstorm with your friends and, or even by yourself and, say, wow, look at all these great ideas I have. And you might not ever do anything with them. Mars energy is what kind of helps you push things forward and push them into action. And like anything, of course, within the tarot, we see this as well. We'll see the influx and the intensity of energy, but what can happen with that energy is, so if we look at the court cards, for example, if you start with the Page of Wands, the Page of Wands is that's the new ideas, that's the enthusiasm, that's the, yeah, I got this great idea and I can't wait to get started on it. Okay. Then we have the Knight of Wands energy. And the Knight of Wands is where we are, you know, full tilt, we are charging right in to do whatever it is we want to do. We are restless. And that's the thing about the energy. It's a restless energy. If you think about fire, when you bring a fire up, a fire can be nice and warm and there's light things, but then you also start to worry that this fire is going to get out of control. And that's where we have the danger with the Mars energy, is that fire, we don't want it to burn us. And like I said, within tarot, when we see fire energy has a lot to do with the ways in which we can, because we are so motivated, this is the way we're going to take on the world. By the time you get to the 9 and 10 of Wands, it's like, oh my God, you know, you're carrying all of these burdens, right? And then it's just kind of like, well, what do I put down? Because we somehow feel that we can't put things down. There's a version of the 10 of Wands card, and it's a deck I have up there, and maybe I'll show it to you on a different day. I might have even shown it to you in the past, but it's the Tarot Oscura, which is one of my favorite decks, but I don't often use it on channels just because if I'm putting it on YouTube, there's a lot of nudity in this deck, like more than usual. I mean, the artist is a fantastic artist, Estelle Rivera. But her 10 of Wands card is amazing because all her figures are kind of monstrous. But you see this figure with all these colors. It's like greens and reds and oranges, and it's holding all of these wands, and it's got this face, and it's got these teeth, and there's like a determination in the face. And I remember when I worked in Marshtown at Rockbox, Gina Devine and I had looked at that particular version of that card, and she said, "Now that's the real 10 of Wands, isn't it?" She's like, because it shows not just the aspect of I'm overburdened. It's also, you know, I'm going to carry this burden if it kills me. You know, it's that kind of energy. It's like, I'm going to show that I'm the strong person. And sometimes, you know, and that can be problematic because that can lead to all other kinds of effects when we believe that we have to carry everything. Sometimes we do it because we're trying to prove to other people that we're heroic. I've known people like that, who it's just like, no, I must shoulder this burden myself because it is my lot in life and I'm a martyr. And, you know, I mean, that is a potential negative aspect of it. And I've seen that with people. And sometimes there's kind of like, you have to gently say to people like, hey, you know, it's great that you want to be so helpful, but you know, you don't, you need to know where to set appropriate boundaries and let other people pick up and do things. You know, you don't need to carry everybody on your back. Okay. Now, if we talk about the Uranus side of the house, now Uranus energy is unpredictable, basically, just like the orbit of the planet itself, which is a very unpredictable orbit. It doesn't, you know, the planet. Once you get to the outer planets, they're kind of all bets are off. You said super interesting because you got the Page of Wands in a reading yesterday. This tracks. Okay. So we've got this. Page of Wands energy is great because it can mean that we are ready to make a fresh start, that we have new ideas. And that's really the good thing about this Mars and Uranus energy, is that now we have a chance. It's like we have this unique combination of the uncertainty of Uranus. Now, in terms of the tarot, Uranus is associated with a number of things, in particular the Tower card, okay? And we are all in massive terror of this card, right? I mean, traditionally, that's what you will see. Like, I remember during 2020, during the pandemic, they had the 2020 Rider-Waite Tarot, and it's like all made of Tower cards. It was kind of funny. But but we always look at the Tower because we see the lightning bolt that strikes and people kind of being thrown out the windows and this tower coming down. And of course, that card is a representation of the Tower of Babel. It's a biblical thing. The giants who want to build the tower that will, this is when all of humankind all spoke the same language. And then when this tower was built, Yahweh or Elohim or Adonai, however you want to couch the name, he basically takes the lightning bolt and he not only destroys the tower, but he scatters the people of the earth, and they're no longer able to understand each other. Okay, so now that's where where different languages come from. Why we all had one language at one time, and now everybody speaks different languages. That's the biblical story. Now, and that's also why you have things like, why you have language programs like that are called Babel and things like that. Or we talk about babbling. When something's babbling, it's like they're kind of, just making meaningless sounds, right? So that's sort of the origin of that term. And so in fact, in the deck, in the tower in some decks is known as the House of God, and others it's called the falling tower. It's just the idea that something has gotten too big, and then the lightning bolt takes it down. Now, if we look at that in ancient mythology, and it's interesting because this was an idea that came up when I was talking the other day about my Azrael messages, the idea that somebody's built a tower too high and it's going to get taken down. When somebody in ancient times, before what we think of as modern religion, okay, what we think of as really modern religion in the sense of monotheistic religion, it's still the most modern form of religion, because it is meant to be moral and ethical and social, kind of in its inflection. I mean, there is a mystical side to it, but it frequently it ends up being the religion of empires, right? It's this idea, this one God idea, right? One God, one truth idea. But if we go before that, if we go to more archaic forms of religion, when we're talking about the gods, okay? If you read most stories, let's just say in Greek mythology, because everybody seems to be exposed to that at least in this culture at some point or another. And you'll frequently have stories of certain mortals who think that they are better than the gods. They display, the term is hubris, okay? Hubris is pride, extreme pride. So they display hubris, and one of them will inevitably, and whenever you read the story, it actually sounds kind of dumb. You're like, why would you be like, yeah, screw you, Zeus, I'm better than you? Like, why would you do that? Like, it just doesn't seem to track. But there's people who think that they don't have to show the gods proper respect or proper, honor, and so something horrible happens to them. Like, for example, the Minyai, who refused to honor Dionysus on his festival and instead sang songs to Athena because, we're not going to, they were, which is a really interesting psychological thing, actually, because it has to do with the way in which our more, I'll call it more chaotic impulses, our impulse to break free of social constraint. Okay, that's what Dionysus tends to represent, that liberation. He's also associated with the god Liber. And that is, the idea that one is set free. And so by the Minyai saying, no, we're going to sing songs to Athena, Athena is a goddess of, of order and, domesticity and order. She's basically about civilized society. She's a very civilized goddess in the way that she operates. So this is an offense to Dionysus, like saying, I don't want anything to do with your chaos. So Dionysus turns them all into bats. It's like, there's point being is that there tends to be this penalty for that kind of hubris of thinking that, and really what it comes down to is the way in which our minds tend to think they know it better. And that was kind of the thing I came to this morning, is it's like, when you're doing visualizations, when you're doing healing, it's like you visualize to a point, and then it's like, okay, this is what I'd like to get to. And ultimately, this is why we're all being told that we have to let go. You have to let go. I mean, you're not, if you need to jump out of that airplane, you can't just stand there on the edge forever. You have to make the jump at some point. And again, that Mars-Uranus energy, it's like the rocket launch, there's like a unique switch that can be flipped that can launch us to what we want. But if we're in that space, and a lot of times we are when we're earth signs, it's that energy of saying, I'm stuck and I really want to change. But then when we're confronted and somebody says, okay, there it is, doors open, you can walk out, people were like, well, yeah, and I've talked about this before too, like let me just fix this thing over here first. We diddly-dally, we take our time. Because now that we're actually confronted with that change that we visualized, rather than seeing it as an adventure, like, okay, there's my opportunity, let me go take it. It's more like, we're like, oh, well, maybe I need to stop and think about this for a bit. Maybe I need to think about all the things that could go wrong with this new thing, and maybe I should think about sticking with the old thing. And this is an energy that says, nope, launched, too late, the button's been pushed. So that's the kind of energy we're dealing with. And so the question becomes, like, how do we work with that? Do you allow yourself to be launched, or are you screaming the entire way? I mean, like, how are you managing what you're being launched into? Because like any kind of a new situation, things in the world are not entirely good and not entirely bad. So we are not going to be in a space where we have, so okay, let's just say we're in a situation, and I'm just going to use, again, just a mundane example. Somebody's in a job that they really hate. Their boss sucks. Their team sucks. They come to work every day in despair, feeling like they have hopeless and have no life. Okay, let's just take somebody like that. Now, this is a person who's like, this is really soul-sucking. I need to get away from this. Okay, there's dozens of other examples. We could talk about a relationship. We could talk about, but let's just use that as an example that a lot of people deal with. Okay, so let's just say somebody just says, well, hey, there's another, you can leave this job. There's another opportunity for you over here. Now, let's say that new opportunity is more in line with something that you want to do. Like, let's just say the job you're doing now, you're doing A, and you really always wanted to do B, and that would make you feel more satisfied. But B might make a little bit less money than A, okay? And so what might happen there is the person might have a window. Somebody might say, look, here, I think you're a great worker. I'm ready to hire you to do B, which is what you've always wanted to do. And then you're like, oh, but B doesn't make as much money, so maybe I should just stay with A. Okay? We do things like that because then we start worrying about the ramifications. We say, well, and again, some people do legitimately say, okay, I have a monthly budget and I have to meet it and I can't necessarily take something, but the question is, can you? Can you take the risk on that? Is it worth doing if it means, we have these ideas about what security is and about what we actually need. One thing I can tell you that I've learned being in business for myself, when I went into this, I had a certain idea of how much money I absolutely had to have every month. And I came to find out that the actual amount I needed was probably half of that. Okay? We always have this kind of idea about what we must have. And we have to be willing to think differently about certain things. And this is an energy where we're going to be launched. Now, the danger of this energy is that if you're somebody who's not ready to be launched, you might get launched anyway. So if we go back to our example of that person, if that person decides they're not going to take the opportunity, then it may just all of a sudden be that their employer has a bunch of layoffs and they're gone. And now, that job you hung on to, you don't have it anymore. And you may get unemployment benefit for a certain period of time, and maybe the opportunity that you could have had may now be gone. So, again, the thing about this particular energy is that the Uranian energy, it takes away from us the things that we really don't need anymore. It takes away, we can make the sacrifice ourselves and go into it. Or we can say, I'm going to hold off, but then we always run the risk that the sacrifice will be made for us. And so we may become very upset and say, I wasn't ready for this. I wasn't ready for this. Well, okay. That happens a lot. And I'm not saying that in a judgy kind of a way, but that is the type of thing that we're dealing with here. And typically what the message has been is you're better off going with this sense of adventure and saying, you know what, even if it's risky, I'm going to launch myself into the new thing. And the other thing that I came up this morning, the collective message that I came up with this morning, that when I was doing my Enochian work, was that things, things, I think the word that they use the word poison a lot. And when they say that means like false ideas, corrupt ideas, or things that hold us back. And one of the things that's come up is kind of the corrupt idea about Mars, Uranus, Algol is that it's something bad. And this is a bad time, that it's evil. I mean, yes, it's energy that we want to be careful with for sure. But they're saying, no, we're not talking about something that's bad. We're just talking about something that's potent. And so the way to manage it, I was told, was the word was used was art. And now art can mean, especially when you're using something that was written by, that was translated by John Dee. I mean, there's a lot of thee and thou in his translations. But art could mean, does art mean are, thou art, you know? Does art refer to literal art as in creative work? Or does art refer to indirect manipulation of something? Now, what is artful? You know what I mean? Oh my God, you got a similar message. Yeah, well, that's it. That's the collective message. You know, that's the spirit right there. So in other words, it's saying, okay, oh my God, I could totally go off on this Greek mythology like lecturer thing, and I'm going to try really hard not to do that, because I really want to get into our reading for today. But it's okay. I've often said when I teach the Trojan War. That's one of the things I teach when I'm teaching at Montclair. And okay, so there's basically two different types of warriors, and you will see there's the Odysseus type, and then there's the Ajax type. Ajax the Greater, we'll say there's two Ajaxes, but Ajax the Greater. And Sophocles wrote a play called Ajax that sort of illustrates this. You have the, and Athena is kind of the goddess who is the in-between factor, because she represents that feminine aspect of the warrior. And when the warrior rejects the feminine aspect, he generally meets a very, very bad end, which is what happens to Ajax, because he ultimately offs himself in disgrace after Athena has blinded him. And basically he ends up, what happens is when Achilles dies, they have what they call funeral games. Okay, so they have, so they do the, they will, so they'll have these games, they'll have these different contests, and generally the prizes might be the possession. So you might get the shield of this particular hero, or their sword, or something like that. Okay, that's how that worked. And in the funeral games for Achilles, I think to get Achilles' it was his armor, I think. Ajax and Odysseus competed, and Odysseus won. And Ajax was annoyed because he did not see Odysseus as a quote-unquote real warrior. Odysseus' name literally means trouble. And what he is, and he's definitely connected to, I think he's supposed to have a lineage to the god Hermes or Hermaeus. So that gives him a tricksterish nature. And if you read the Odyssey, he's always pretending to be somebody else. He like shows up and says, oh yeah, I'm this person. Then he shows up at his own home and, oh, I'm a beggar. Oh, I'm this. Oh, I'm that. He's like a master. He's like an art. He's like an actor. He's a master of disguise. He goes into different places and he never tells anybody exactly who he is up front. And then later on, you find out who he is. And when he does reveal who he is, that's when he has trouble. Literally, like with the, when he counters a Cyclops Polyphemus and then tells to him, tell him Odysseus is the one, because Odysseus outwits him, but then tells him who he is, and he makes a big mistake because Polyphemus' father is the god of the sea, Poseidon. And after that, Poseidon's like, what, you screwed over my son? Well, I'm going to get you. So yeah, Odysseus is better when he plays that kind of a game. And normally we don't like that kind of behavior, because we say, no, that's indirect. I want somebody to be direct from me. I want somebody to be upfront. I want you to be, I want you to tell me like it is. But we don't really necessarily want people to always tell us like it is. And sometimes it's not a situation, if you're dealing with someone who's very traumatized or dealing with somebody who's very entrenched in a certain point of view, you just telling them, look, you need to have a different point of view is not going to work. You have to find another way. This is the whole thing about the art of diplomacy and negotiation. This is why you have negotiators go in when you have major wars between powers that absolutely hate each other. You have to have a way, an indirect way to kind of sneak in and achieve the thing. And that's the energy right now. Use this energy in an artful way. That's the message that I had gotten. So let's see what the Osho Zen reading has for us today. Okay. Interesting. Okay. So our first card here again, this was our last card yesterday, which was the past lives card. Okay, it's the moon. So the moon, again, the connections that we have to the past, the things that tie us to the past. That's kind of what's front and center here. And as this card implies, whatever it is we're tied to, it's not something superficial. It's not just my emotions about something in this moment or my uncertainty about this particular thing. This is past lives implies something that's deep rooted. It's like this is something that we hide from ourselves, or something that we want to protect that may actually just be the source of our trauma, or maybe it's a wound that we don't want to touch. Whatever it is, past lives card indicates that we are now having a chance to look at material that has created really old patterns in our soul, and things that are not. It's not just, like I said, it's not the kind of thing that a simple affirmation or maybe even one healing session will just magically get rid of. Okay. Now, the inner feeling of which we're unaware. Okay, so there's guidance here. This is the Three of Pentacles. So this definitely indicates that we are being guided. Okay, that there is, whether it be we want to think of it as our spirit guides, whether we want to think of it as our inner voice that's guiding us, could be both. There is something in you that is telling you what the right thing is to do, or what the pattern is, or what you need to let go of. It's you know, even though we try to say, oh, I don't know what it is, there's something in you that knows what it is. It's just that it could be that we don't want to look at it. So we are getting this we have this internal guidance that's trying to point us in the direction that we need to go. And the external feeling of which we are aware, which has also come up a lot this week, is this Ace of Pentacles card, the maturity card. Okay? So we are at this new place. Aces have to do with new beginnings, and Pentacles, or in this case rainbows in this deck, it really has to do with the way we create stability, the way we create new foundations, new financial stability, maybe even new stability in terms of where we're living, or what we're doing, or what our job is, or just what makes us feel secure. Okay, so we're at this new place here, and I think, but because it is also the maturity card, we're at this new place, but not without experience. And experience can be a double-edged sword, because on the one hand, yes, we are experienced. We're not coming at this totally new. On the other hand, sometimes we may just continually look back and say, well, what happened in my past experience is what's going to happen in the future. Okay, and that may not necessarily be the case. Yeah, and there we have it. New vision. This is the Hangman. This is the Neptunian card, Pisces energy, because this is saying you have to look at things in their heights and their depths. You have to look at it in a new way. Okay, this is like I said, this is their interpretation of the Hanged Man. So the Hanged Man, with somebody, he hangs upside down, so he's got the wisdom, right? But but the thing is, in that hanging upside down, that also implies an impasse, an inability to move. So something needs to be given up. That's the idea of sacrifice. We have to give something up in order to move. And I was doing readings. Actually, I got to post my readings this morning. I have Aries through Virgo done for this time period. That was the Neptune card, came up quite a bit. We're being called to give something up. And the outcome is the Hierophant, which is the no-thingness card. Okay? So, again, moving into a space where... And it's interesting because Hierophant in traditional decks has to do with tradition, literally. Traditional decks has to do with tradition. It's a very traditional card. It has to do with spiritual mentors and organized religion and things like that. That tends to be our association with the Hierophant. This is actually saying something very different. It's saying, no, this is that black space. You have to be willing to step into the no-thingness. Okay? That may very well be the sacrifice that we have to make. Not to simply keep looking back at this, or allowing that to keep pulling us back. Speaking of that same deck I was talking about, yes, I'm pretty sure I showed a card from this deck in the Tarot Oscuro. It was their version of the Eight of Cups, where there's the woman who's trying to fly free, but it's like in the cups are all like these tree branches that keep wrapping around her ankles and her arms and trying to pull her back down. It's basically you have a chance to like explosively break free of that kind of energy right now. And yeah, it does move into a space where we don't know what's next. And again, it's going to be different how this affects everybody. It may depend on where these influences are in your chart, what it may be blowing open. This could be more of a spiritual thing. This could be a mental or emotional block that's blown up. This could have to do with what you think of as your sense of security being changed. But whatever's being changed is being changed because it's time. I have to watch this again. I had a call and missed everything from when you mentioned art. Okay. Well, the recording will be here for sure. I'm just going to pull one more card, and that's going to be from the Between the Worlds deck. Okay. And Okay, so we have Universal Body and Simplicity are our two cards from this deck. Okay, I think actually Simplicity card in particular looks kind of nice, doesn't it? A lot of birds in this one. And okay, so let's tell you what these both mean. Universal Body. Okay, the universal body or collective life force is the engine of liberation. Oh, what are we talking about here? This card is a reminder of the relational network to which you belong. Your body is part of and contributes to a potent life force, that of planets, cultures, forests, and reefs. How many times have I said, yeah, you've got to feel it in the body, right? Anyway, the body is part of what's going on here. This is also a call to tend to the wholeness and well-being of your physical and emotional body. Here is a reminder to tune in, take good care, soak in pleasure. What say your bones and where fly your feelings? Okay, and then we have the Simplicity card, and I feel like this is in one of those weird sections. Yeah, I found it. Okay. Oh, actually, it's right here. I just passed it. Okay. It is enough to sit at the water's edge, to watch the sun lower itself behind Earth's horizon. It is enough to be alive. Incredible clarity comes when distraction and excess melt away. The senses come home, truth abounds. There is nothing, but there is everything. Life is simple. And that does actually bring us full circle to what I was talking about at the beginning, and the kind of insight I had during the Rouhani, is that we can try to visualize and control what our plans are. I think this is why I was talking a lot about plans. Where do we need to go? Okay, I need to dig steps A, B, C, and D. Just keep it simple. Just keep it simple. When you don't know where exactly you're going, just sit and wait to see what comes. Because that's what I found, is that when I was just like, okay, I'm just going to stop trying to think about this, and I'm just going to do whatever comes next. Keep it simple. Don't bog yourself down with a lot of ambitions and plans right now. That seems to be what the message is, because we're moving through a time of change, and if you allow that guidance to come in, because when we saw guidance as that inner influence, then you're going to know how to navigate this space. But when you get the answer, don't let your past automatically jump in and say, oh no, you can't do it that way. Oh no, it has to be this way. It has to be that way. Hear out whatever your body's trying to tell you. Hear out whatever your inner guides are trying to tell you. Okay? So, interesting thoughts for today. I wish you all a very good Mars, Uranus, Algol conjunction, because today is actually the day. And hopefully, whatever comes out of this, you will have an inspiration to put you on the track. If you feel lost in some regard, this will put you on the track of where you want to go. So, you're welcome. Like I said, I hope all of this, hope it ends up being a good week for everybody. It's only Monday, but new start, new beginning of the week, and a lot of people hate Mondays. Monday's usually my day off, so I don't necessarily hate it that much, but So anyway, all of you have a great day. Oh, you're welcome. And and thank you guys for being here. Like I said, if you missed some of it, the recording will be on Instagram, and I will upload it to YouTube today. And I will see you all tomorrow. Take care.